Unit 2 will introduce you to the things that will affect and surround you while you're underwater. You'll also learn more about the different types of diving equipment and the different exposure suits you will use to protect you from the environmental factors you'll encounter underwater. Every dive site has an environment that may affect you differently from another. The same dive site will have seasonal differences, and sometimes things can even be different on the same day or different depths. These differences include the weather, sea conditions, currents, water temperature, and whether you're diving in fresh water or seawater. Other factors that may affect the dive are bottom composition and aquatic life. This unit will give you an overview of these conditions. After certification, you'll have many opportunities to explore different diving environments, lakes, rivers, ponds, quarries, tropical and temperate oceans. Each environment has its own unique properties. If you are unfamiliar with a dive site, always obtain information from a local dive store or diver from the area. One of the best ways to become familiar with a new location is to participate in an organized dive by a local dive shop. Understanding the conditions of the dive site will help you prepare yourself, your buddy, and your equipment to make your dive more enjoyable and safer. Water temperatures range from 28 degrees Fahrenheit or -2 degrees Celsius to 96 degrees Fahrenheit or 36 degrees Celsius throughout the world. In a given location, though, water temperatures usually vary less than 15 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius, to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 11 degrees Celsius throughout the year. Water temperatures can also change with depth, usually getting colder as you descend. While descending, you may encounter an abrupt change in temperature. This point of change is called a thermocline. Sometimes, as you descend below the thermocline, you will see a rippling effect as the two temperature layers mix. During a freshwater dive, you may descend through 2 or 3 thermoclines. In seawater, you can experience a thermocline, or you may experience temperature differences due to currents or upwellings where deeper water is rising to the surface. While preparing for a dive, you need to consider the water temperature at the depth to which you will be descending and other conditions present that may make the water temperature colder. If you are unsure of what the water temperature is, ask a local dive shop professional. Knowing the water temperature will help you decide on what type of exposure protection to use. Diving in extremely cold or icy conditions requires proper exposure protection and special training. Your instructor and dive shop professional have specialty courses that can provide you with the training you need for cold water or ice diving. These courses include ice diving, dry suit, and cold water specialties. Bottom composition is a term that refers to the type of material that the floor of your dive site is composed of. Bottom composition will affect your diving experience and can include rock, coral, sand, and vegetation. In rivers and lakes, you may also find dive sites with bottoms of silt or mud. The best bottoms for diving are rock, coral, and vegetation because they minimize the amount of particles that may be stirred up from the bottom, affecting your visibility. Muddy or silty bottoms are stirred up very easily. If this occurs, your visibility will be greatly diminished by sediment and sand suspended in the water. If you drop anything over a muddy or silty bottom, it may settle into the mud or silt, making it difficult to recover. Always make sure that your equipment is well attached with clips or lanyards to avoid losing them. Entanglement in submerged objects, trees, brush, or aquatic plants is possible if you're not cautious. If you become entangled, do not twist or turn. You may make the situation worse. Instead, remain calm, identify the source of entanglement, and take steps to free yourself. Your buddy may be of great assistance in this situation. Coral and rock bottoms require your attention to avoid damage to the marine life by being scraped by you or your equipment. Coral reefs pose a unique set of problems. A coral reef system is very delicate, made up of many aquatic organisms, and even a gentle touch could kill thousands of these organisms. Be very cautious when exploring. It is especially important to use your very best buoyancy skills. Be aware of where your fin tips are to avoid kicking into the coral or kicking up sand that may settle into and kill the coral. There is other marine life that live in the reef system that can cause injury to you by stings or bites. An unsuspecting diver may sit on, kneel on, or otherwise come in contact with one or more of these animals. Always be aware of your surroundings and use good buoyancy control to minimize any injuries to yourself or to the aquatic life that lives there. Mastering the ability to remain neutrally buoyant will help you avoid coming into contact with the bottom with your fins, body, or equipment. Secure all hoses, bags, cameras, and any items that are dangling. These precautions will help to ensure that your dive will be more enjoyable and help you to prevent damage to the marine environment. Underwater visibility is the distance that you can see underwater. Visibility can vary from nothing to over 100 feet, depending on some principal factors. These factors are particles suspended in the water like algae or silt, bottom composition, wind and weather that may cause the bottom to become stirred up, water movement such as waves, surf, and currents. Waves, surf, and currents churn up the sediment and cause small particles to suspend in the water. Microscopic plants, algae, and animals, plankton, can proliferate until the water is clouded. The kick of a diver's fin, the wake of a boat, or rain runoff can also churn up particles from the bottom, limiting visibility. In limited visibility, it may become difficult to determine your position. During an ascent or descent in these conditions, it is possible to become disoriented, and you may not be able to easily determine which way is up or down. If you become confused, stop. Breathe slowly and deeply to regain control, and watch your bubble stream to determine your orientation to the surface. When diving in limited visibility, stay close to your buddy. If necessary, hold on to your buddy's console, tank valve, arm, or hand to stay together. Use your compass to determine direction and your watch or timer to monitor the distance you have swum. Monitor your SPG frequently. If at any time you become separated from your buddy in low visibility, search no longer than 30 seconds. If your buddy is not found, then surface slowly, wait for your buddy, reunite, and continue the dive as a buddy team. If the visibility is extremely poor, postpone your dive until conditions improve. Diving in extremely clear water may seem easy, but there are some problems to consider. Judging distance and the depth of the water can be difficult in clear water. The bottom will appear to be closer than it actually is because of the magnifying effect of the water. This may cause you to misjudge your depth. During a descent into extremely clear water, refer to your depth gauge often to keep from accidentally exceeding depth limits. Vertigo can also occur during ascents and descents in clear water because of a lack of visible references. This makes the use of a descent line or descending down an anchor chain mandatory in extremely clear water. A descent line is a rope or anchor line running from the surface to or near the bottom. It may be suspended at the surface by a float or boat and anchored or fastened to the bottom on a moor. The descent line will provide a valuable visual reference during descents and ascents in both poor and very clear visibility. Water is dense and has a lot of resistance to motion through it. A current is water moving in one direction like a river. Currents will occur in most bodies of water to some extent. Four main causes of currents in the ocean are winds blowing over the surface of the water, cooling and heating, tidal movements, waves. Trying to swim against even a gentle current can quickly tire you out, and your air supply will be used faster. If a mild current is present at your dive site, begin your dive against the current. At the end of your dive, you can use the current to assist your return to the boat or shore. If you find it necessary to swim against a current, you'll find it easier to swim near the bottom because the current is usually weaker there than at the surface. If you are at the surface and the current carries you past the exit point, swim perpendicular to the current and toward the exit point. Do not overexert. If you become overly tired, first make sure that you are sufficiently positively buoyant. Signal the shore or boat for help and wait for assistance. Diving allows you to see things and interact with an environment that only a few fortunate people have experienced. There will be many new and different animals and plants to experience, but underwater, you are a guest. Aquatic animals are usually timid and very sensitive to their surroundings and other individuals. Quick and sudden movements by a diver may be considered as an aggressive act, whereas slow and smooth movements are less likely to disturb them. By moving slowly and smoothly, you will have more opportunities to observe natural behavior, and you will minimize disruption of the natural pattern of the aquatic life. Injuries to divers from an aggressive animal are very uncommon. Common marine injuries are usually not from an aggressive animal. If a diver allows himself to become unheeding about where hands and feet are or unaware of the surroundings around them, injuries can occur by coming into contact with unfamiliar animals, plants, or corals. To minimize or avoid the possibility injury from a marine animal, the first step is to become familiar with the kinds of animals that can be encountered at the dive site. Common injuries include puncture wounds from sea urchins and stings from crown-of-thorns starfish, stingrays, lionfish, and rockfish, stings from jellyfish, alive or dead, cuts or scrapes from corals, barnacles, clams, and crabs. All of these injuries can be avoided by being aware of your surroundings and watching what you touch. Wearing an exposure suit will protect you from accidental contact with stinging corals and scrapes against barnacles. Almost all animals are potentially dangerous when provoked, but injuries to humans are quite rare. Some animals have an undeserved reputation of being extremely dangerous, such as sharks or moray eels. If you see a shark acting in an aggressive manner, remain calm, descend to the bottom if possible, and keep eye contact. More than likely, the animal is just passing through. If it stays in the area, slowly swim away near the bottom and exit the water at the first opportunity. Moray eels usually remain in their holes during the daytime, sometimes hanging halfway in and halfway out. Moray eels are very territorial and act defensively. If you accidentally or irresponsibly stick your hand in an eel's lair, you may be injured. Most likely, injuries from a moray eel is the result of making the animal feel threatened. Aquatic plants range from giant kelp forests to smaller grasses and algae. Plants provide food and shelter for some aquatic life. The concern that divers may have with plants is the possibility of entanglement. With a little training and experience and keeping all equipment attached and streamlined, you'll find that maneuvering through kelp and other plants can be done with ease. If you become entangled, remain calm. Identify the source of entanglement and take steps to free yourself or your buddy. Diving in the world's oceans can be very rewarding. The environment is a dynamic and changing one. A good understanding of the ocean environment is your first step in avoiding difficult situations. Familiarization with currents, waves, upwellings, and tides is an important part in preparing yourself for an ocean dive. Most water motion that will affect you as an ocean diver are the result of wave action. Waves are formed when wind blows over the surface of the ocean. The size of a wave relates directly to the duration and strength of the wind. Waves can travel for thousands of miles until they finally break in shallow water. A wave travels along the surface until it encounters shallow water. Contact with the ocean floor causes the lower portion of the wave to slow down as it drags along the bottom. The upper part of the wave overtakes the lower part, causing the top of the wave to fall forward and break. Where this happens is called the surf zone. Beach entries and exits can be difficult in the surf zone. Avoid diving when the surf is high and rough. You'll need specialized training to enter and exit the surf safely. If surf is present in your area, your instructor will provide you with this training. Sometimes waves approach the shore at different angles, causing the waves to reinforce or nullify one another. This creates wave sets. Wave sets are a series of small waves followed by a series of larger waves. Entries through the surf zone should be timed so that you can make it when the waves are the smallest. After a wave breaks on the shore, it flows back into the ocean under the incoming wave. This backflow of water is called undertow. As the undertow flows back into the ocean, it dissipates at a depth no deeper than about 3 feet or 1 meter. Undertow will not pull you out to sea, but sometimes it can be strong enough to cause you to lose your balance and footing. When entering or exiting the surf, make sure that you have a firm and stable footing before the wave hits. If you're diving in fairly shallow water with waves passing overhead, you'll feel a back and forth movement of the water. The motion is called surge. The larger the waves overhead, the stronger the surge. A strong surge can be dangerous if you're diving near rocks or other objects. Surge can be avoided by swimming to deeper water. Surge can also be helpful. If you hold on to an immovable object while the surge is moving against your direction of travel and then let go when it is moving with your direction of travel, it can help you hurry your swim along. A longshore current is water moving down the shoreline and is caused by waves approaching the shore at an angle. While diving in a longshore current, the movement of water can move you parallel to the shore and away from your exit area. Plan your dive so that the entry point is up current from your exit point, or dive into the current so that you can drift back to your exit point. If you find yourself caught in a longshore current, do not overtire yourself by swimming against the flow of water. Swim at a right angle to the current while swimming toward shore. If you become overly tired, first make sure that you have adequate positive buoyancy. Then signal someone on the shore or boat for assistance. You may encounter a rip current at the beach. Rip currents occur when water moves ashore by wave action and then funnels back to sea through a narrow opening in a reef or sandbar. As a rip current rushes seaward, a line of turbid, foamy water interrupts the normal wave pattern. Rip currents can be very strong, and an unwary diver can be carried away from the shore very quickly. If caught in a rip current, establish positive buoyancy and then turn and swim parallel to shore until you clear the rip current. Never try to swim directly against the flow of water. When winds blow offshore, they push warm surface water away from shore. As the surface water moves out, deep water flows upward and replaces the warm water. This is called an upwelling. The deep water is usually cold and clear. Sometimes upwelling creates excellent diving conditions. Coastal regions have a rhythmic rise and fall of water levels called tides. Tides are caused by the gravitational pull of the sun and moon on the oceans of the earth. These tides vary in height, duration, and periodicity due to differences in geographic location. Tides can affect diving conditions by producing currents and by changing visibility and water depths. In some areas, the best diving conditions may occur during high tide. Consult tide tables or a local dive shop for information on tides for the location in which you're diving. In Unit 1, we discussed the various types of basic scuba equipment that you will need to dive. We will now cover the clothing that divers wear to protect themselves against environmental exposure called exposure suits. We will also discuss auxiliary diving equipment which gives you both necessary and useful tools for diving. Exposure suits are worn underwater to provide the diver with thermal protection from excessive heat loss in cold water and to protect from cuts, scrapes, and marine animal stings. Exposure suits also include hoods to protect the head, gloves for the hands, and boots for the feet. When buying an exposure suit, you will need to be aware of the diving conditions at the locations that you intend to use it. Of primary interest to the diver is the thermal protection factor of the suit and its buoyancy properties. Cuts and styles of exposure suits provide a number of choices, such as shorties, full body suits, and multiple piece suits. Dive skins are light exposure suits made of lycra, nylon, or other synthetic materials that are usually worn next to the skin. They are available as full body suits or shorties in an assortment of colors. Their primary function is to provide protection from the sun, marine animal stings, and abrasions. Some dive skins also incorporate a small amount of non-buoyant insulation and do provide some thermal protection for use in warmer water. Use caution when diving near corals or other marine life. Marine life can be damaged by your contact even though your exposure suit protects you. The responsible diver avoids contact with the reef and injury to the animals that live there. Good buoyancy control will assist you in accomplishing this. Many divers wear dive skins under their wetsuit to make putting on or taking off the wetsuit easier. This provides a smoother surface over which to pull the wetsuit. Wetsuits are made of neoprene. Neoprene is a rubber that has been blown full of tiny microscopic bubbles of nitrogen for insulation. As a diver descends, neoprene compresses, causing some of its insulative property to be lost. This compression also causes buoyancy to decrease. During a dive, the diver must compensate for the changes in buoyancy caused by the compression of the wetsuit. Wetsuits are worn snugly against the body to keep water from channeling between the wetsuit and your skin. When wetsuits fit correctly, a thin layer of water fills in between the diver's skin and the inner surface of the wetsuit. The body warms the thin layer of water, and the insulative properties of the neoprene slow down the rate of heat loss. If the wetsuit is too large or fits improperly, channels can be created that will allow water to flow through. Water flow will carry away more heat from the diver. Not only is this uncomfortable, but it will decrease the amount of time that you can remain submerged. It is also very important not to overheat while suiting up or wearing the wetsuit prior to a dive. Heat stroke and heat exhaustion are serious medical conditions that can be avoided by waiting to don your wetsuit until you're ready to enter the water. Wait until your buddy is ready to don his wetsuit before you put yours on. This will help you avoid waiting and overheating. If you are waiting between dives during your surface interval and the air temperature is warm, it may be wise to remove the wetsuit top covering the core portion of your body to avoid overheating. Accessories to your exposure suit provide you with further protection. There are hoods for the head, gloves for the hands, and boots for the feet. Around 75% of a diver's heat loss is from the head. You can slow this heat loss down by wearing a hood. Hoods are usually made from neoprene. The fit of a hood is very important. It must fit comfortably, but like a wetsuit, must not allow water to channel through. The hood must also not fit tightly around the neck. Constriction of the carotid arteries in your neck can cause elevated blood pressure and a rapid heart rate. Gloves are worn to protect the hands from cuts and abrasions, but neoprene versions are made for warmth. Neoprene mittens that enclose all the fingers or part of the fingers together are designed for use in the coldest of water. When using gloves to protect your hands, you must also be careful to avoid damage to living organisms on the reef. Some dive operators, as well as some local governments, do not allow diving with gloves in their jurisdictions in an effort to make divers more aware of their capability to carelessly cause damage to the reef system. Neoprene boots are worn to protect the feet from cuts, punctures, and abrasions, and also provide warmth. As mentioned in Unit 1, boots should be tried on with your fins to assure a good fit. Dry suits are a watertight shell that may be worn over other clothing. The dry suit keeps the water out. Other clothing or neoprene provides the insulation and can be worn in different thickness depending upon the degree of insulation that you need. Some dry suits can even be worn over regular street clothes. Because of this ability to layer clothing, dry suits can be worn in very cold water. The dry suit is made of a water-impermeable material such as neoprene, a rubberized fabric, or other materials of urethane or modern plastics. A watertight seal at the neck and wrists prevents water from flooding the interior. To be used safely and properly, a dry suit requires specialized training that you can obtain from your instructor or dive shop professional. Do not attempt to use a dry suit without first obtaining this training.